When I bought the ranch, it was the quietest place I'd ever seen. Hundreds of acres stretching out under the Texas sun. No fences in sight, just wild land and peace. After 10 years serving overseas, peace was all I wanted. The first month was perfect. The next month, I got a letter nailed to my front gate. Notice of delinquent fees, $200,000 due immediately. East Ridge Homeowners Association. I stared at it, laughed out loud, then muttered, "Homeowners Association? Out here?" There wasn't a single house for miles. The closest neighbor was an abandoned barn half a mile down the road. Still, the letter had an official seal and a signature from someone named Karen B. Lively, HOA president. I called the number on the notice. A woman answered, voice sharp and smug. "This is East Ridge HOA. How may I help you?" "Yeah, you can start by explaining why you think my ranch is under your HOA." "Oh, that's easy," she said sweetly. "East Ridge has been expanding. Your property technically falls within our new boundary lines." I chuckled. "Lady, I don't live in a subdivision. I live in the middle of nowhere." Her tone turned icy. "You'll need to pay the outstanding community maintenance fees, $200,000, or we'll be forced to take legal action." "Legal action for what?" I asked. "Owning dirt?" Click. She hung up. 2 days later, a tow truck showed up. The driver claimed he'd been told my land was being repossessed. I showed him my deed, signed and verified by the county clerk. He left in a hurry. Then came the threats, emails, fake invoices, and even a woman in sunglasses who showed up claiming to be an HOA inspector. When I asked for ID, she said, "I don't need one. We're the authority here." That's when I realized this wasn't just a scam. It was a setup. I dug into the records. East Ridge HOA had been dissolved 2 years earlier after a fraud investigation, but someone, probably Karen Lively herself, had revived the name and was using it to extort new property owners. So I played along. I sent her a check, but it wasn't a real one. It was marked void for court evidence. A week later, I got served with papers. They were suing me for non-payment of HOA fees. Perfect. I showed up to court in jeans and boots while her lawyer strutted in with a thick binder and a smirk. Karen sat behind him, arms crossed, certain she was about to win big. The judge glanced at the paperwork, then at me. "Mr. Walker, it says here you owe $200,000 in association dues. Is that correct?" I smiled. "Only if cows count as residents, Your Honor." The courtroom chuckled. The judge flipped through the pages, frowning. "This HOA was dissolved in 2023. He looked over his glasses at Karen. "Who exactly do you represent?" Karen's face went pale. I'm the acting president." "Of a non-existent organization?" the judge asked. "Ma'am, this is bordering on fraud." Her lawyer stammered. "Your Honor, we have authority under nothing," the judge cut in. "These documents are illegal. You've been charging fake fees on land outside any jurisdiction." Karen's mouth opened and closed like she couldn't breathe. But he owes the money. He's living on our land." The judge slammed his gavel once. "No, ma'am, he's living on his land. Case dismissed." The courtroom erupted in quiet laughter as I tipped my hat. "Appreciate your time, Judge." But before I left, the judge leaned forward and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Mr. Walker, if they contact you again, let us know. The state's already investigating these fake HOAs." I turned toward Karen and smiled. "Guess you'll be getting some real paperwork soon." Her glare could have said fire to dry grass. As I walked out into the sun, I couldn't help but grin. They wanted $200,000, but all they bought was a felony.
A week after court, I thought it was finally over. The scam was exposed, the fake HOA humiliated, and I was back to mending fences and enjoying quiet mornings on my porch. But peace doesn't last long when people like Karen lose. It started small. My mailbox torn open, a dead snake thrown on my porch, tire tracks leading up my dirt road in the middle of the night. Then one morning, I walked outside to find a bright red sign nailed to my gate. Property under review, HOA foreclosure pending. I laughed at first, but when I saw the county logo printed in the corner, my stomach turned. This one looked real. I called the county office. "You folks really foreclosing on my land?" The clerk hesitated. "Your file does show a lien, sir, from East Ridge Homeowners Association." My heart sank. Somehow, Karen had filed the lien in the county system. She wasn't bluffing anymore. She'd gone inside the bureaucracy. I drove straight to the county building. The clerk met me with a stack of papers thicker than my arm. Every page had my name on it, every signature forged. They'd even attached fake tax records. "She must have had help," the clerk muttered. "Someone in the assessor's office is feeding her documents." I nodded slowly. "Then I'll feed her something back." That night, I pulled out my old Army laptop and went through the state's property database. I wasn't just a rancher. I used to handle logistics, and I knew how to trace paper trails. Within hours, I found it. The document number used to file the lien didn't belong to a county record. It belonged to a community garden permit 20 miles away. She'd hijacked a real code to make her fake lien look legitimate. I printed everything and took it straight to the DA's office the next morning. The assistant DA looked at my file, then at me. "You realize this is criminal fraud, right?" "Yeah," I said, "and you've got all the evidence you need to prove it." He smiled. "We'll handle the legal side, Mr. Walker. But if I were you, I'd keep a camera on that ranch. Folks like her don't back off easy." He was right. That night, around midnight, my dogs went wild. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. A pickup truck was parked at the far end of my property, headlights off. I crept closer, keeping low. Inside, I saw Karen in the passenger seat, her face lit by a phone screen. A man was beside her, holding what looked like a crowbar. They were going for my front gate. I hit record on my phone and shouted, "You're trespassing again, Karen!" The truck's engine roared to life. The man floored it, ramming straight into the gate, but the metal didn't budge. I'd reinforced it after the last time. The impact set off my motion lights, and the entire yard lit up like a stadium. Karen screamed, covering her face as the cameras caught everything. The truck backed up, tires spinning in the dirt, then took off down the road. The next morning, I sent the footage straight to the sheriff. Within hours, 2 patrol cars were sitting outside Karen's fancy brick home in Eastridge. That evening, the sheriff himself called me. "Walker, you're gonna love this. Turns out that lien they filed, signed by a clerk she bribed. We've got her, the lawyer, and her boyfriend all under investigation." I leaned back on my porch, listening to the wind whistle through the pines. I guess the HOA finally found something real. Real jail time. But as satisfying as that was, I wasn't done yet. Because buried in those county files was one more surprise, a small clause no one had noticed, a law older than the HOA itself. And if I played it right, not only would Karen lose everything, I'd end up owning the whole Eastridge development. I spent the next few days in my barn office, digging through old legal codes with coffee and dust for company. Somewhere between the broken pages of state property law, I found what I was looking for: the 1895 Adverse Property Consolidation Act. Back then it was meant for ranchers. Men who built on unclaimed land and maintained it for a decade could absorb it legally if no other entity proved ownership. The clause still existed, buried deep in the books. And Eastridge? It had been built right over what used to be my ranch's grazing extension, never properly re-registered. I couldn't believe it. By trying to rope my ranch into their HOA scam, Karen had actually exposed that their whole neighborhood was sitting on my land. The next morning, I drove to the courthouse with a binder full of evidence, tax receipts, the old maps, and every fake paper Karen had filed. The same judge from before looked up when I walked in. "Mr. Walker," he said, smiling faintly. "You again." "Afraid so, Your Honor. But this time, I'm not here to defend myself." Karen was already there, sitting stiffly beside a new lawyer. Her face was pale but still full of fire. "This is harassment," she said sharply. "He's obsessed with me." I slid the folder across the table. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of being stolen from." The judge flipped through the pages, frowning deeper with each one. "This is the original land registry for East Ridge?" "Yes, sir. And if you'll notice, page 3, there's no record of HOA incorporation over that area after 1982, meaning every home was built on property still registered under the Carter-Walker Ranch boundaries." The courtroom went dead quiet. Karen's lawyer blinked. "That's impossible. The HOA has governed that land for 30 years. "Not legally," I said, "and since they just admitted in court that they extended their authority to my ranch, it falls under the same boundary claim." The judge leaned back, almost smiling now. "So what you're saying, Mr. Walker, is that, legally, you own East Ridge?" "Technically, yes, unless the HOA wants to pay back taxes on 30 years of unauthorized construction." Karen stood up, shaking. "You can't do this. You can't just own people's homes." I looked at her calmly. "I don't want your houses, Karen. I just want peace. But if you or your fake HOA come near my property again, I'll file for full repossession." The judge chuckled softly. "Well, Mrs. Lively, it seems your HOA owes Mr. Walker quite a bit, including an apology." He lifted his gavel. "Case dismissed. Again." Karen's lawyer tried to object, but the judge wasn't done. "Actually, no. Strike that. Case closed. And I'll be forwarding this to the Attorney General's office. Seems we've got a long trail of fraud here." Karen's knees almost buckled. "You can't do this to me," she whispered. I tipped my hat. "Ma'am, you did it to yourself." Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. The story had spread. Veteran rancher outsmarts HOA fraud ring. Cameras flashed as I climbed into my truck. I just smiled and said the only line that came to mind. They wanted $200,000. I gave them a lesson worth a lifetime. As I drove home, the sun dipped low over the hills, turning everything gold. My dogs barked when I pulled into the drive, the gate still standing strong. Peace, at last. The kind you can't buy, steal, or fake. And somewhere down the road, Karen's empty HOA office sign hung sideways in the wind. Just another relic of power that never really existed. Within a week, the story blew up. News vans parked outside my gate, drones hovered over my ranch, and every local channel ran the headline, "Veteran Rancher Exposes $12 million HOA Fraud Network." I hadn't expected it to go that far. I figured Karen would face a fine, maybe probation, but the deeper the reporters dug, the uglier it got. Turns out, her East Ridge HOA wasn't the only one. There were 6 others across neighboring counties, all run by the same fake management group. And at the top of that group, Karen's brother, her lawyer, and 2 former county officials. They'd been inventing community fees for years, slapping liens on properties, threatening legal action, and scaring folks into paying fake dues. Elderly farmers, widows, small families, people who didn't have the time or money to fight back. Until me. The morning the full story aired, I got a call from Sheriff Daniels. "Walker, you sitting down?" "I'm standing. Should I be?" He chuckled. "State investigators raided their offices this morning, found boxes of fake titles, empty bank accounts, and a hard drive full of forged HOA letters. You just cracked one of the biggest fraud cases this county's seen." I leaned against the porch post, staring out over my land.
Guess I just did what any man would do if someone tried to steal his home. He hesitated. Karen's asking for a meeting. I laughed. She's got nerve. She says she wants to talk face to face, claims it's about an apology. I thought for a moment. If she comes here, it'll be on camera. That evening, her car rolled up the dirt road. No lawyers, no backup, just Karen. She stepped out slowly, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The arrogance was gone. Her shoulders slumped under a gray coat. I didn't come to fight, she said, quietly. Good, because I'm done fighting. She looked around the ranch, eyes softening. You were right. I let greed run me. My brother told me we could rebuild the HOA, make it legitimate, but we crossed every line. I thought I was protecting our community. I nodded. You ended up hurting it. Tears welled in her eyes. They said it was legal. They said no one would check. I sighed. There's always someone who checks. She looked up at me then, her voice barely a whisper. You could have destroyed me completely. Why didn't you? I shrugged. Because I've seen enough destruction to last a lifetime. Justice is enough. She nodded, tears streaking down her cheeks. You're a better person than I ever was. Maybe, or maybe I just learned what peace is worth. Karen turned, walked back to her car, and drove away without another word. The sound of gravel crunching under her tires faded into silence. A week later, I got a letter, not from a fake HOA this time, but from the state attorney's office. It said the fraud network was officially dismantled. Karen and her crew were facing charges for racketeering, forgery, and property extortion. The total damage across the state, nearly $18 million. The last line of the letter made me laugh out loud. Thanks to your persistence, dozens of homeowners have reclaimed their property rights. I looked out across my land, the sun burning low over the horizon, and whispered, guess that's better than any paycheck. Then I hung a new sign on my gate, private property, no HOA beyond this point. It went viral within hours. And that's how I learned. When someone tries to own your peace, the best revenge is proving you already own everything they're fighting for.